Okay, welcome everyone to this special video cast of BowCast. My name is Anil Roney. Anthony has tonight off, but we're joined once again. You probably heard on episode 37 our interview with Perry Ratcliffe from Archer's Advantage, and what we're both here to do is to actually showcase a video of how the software actually works and talk about setup and that kind of thing. So with that, Perry, I wanted to welcome you back, and thanks for taking the time to get us through your software.
Sure, Neil. Thank you very much for having me on.
Okay. So today what we talked about is obviously what we're looking at right here, and maybe I'll just kind of close it to show to folks. Once you download Archer's Advantage, you can kind of come to Programs here and bring it up. And what we were hoping to accomplish today is really just go through the typical bow setup, what the entry points are for a typical bow hunter to get their setup going, and then maybe talk about how you can use the software to print off sight tapes that you can use actually on your adjustable sight. Does that sound like a plan?
Sounds good to me.
Okay. So I'll hand it over to you, Perry. Take me through. I have the software up. Where do I start? Where do I get going? Let's start there.
Well, you probably don't want to set up Perry's Black Nickel Shadow Cat. So let's go ahead and add your own record by clicking the Manage Record tab.
Okay, so we click on Manage Records here, and then
you click Add Record.
Okay, perfect.
And just type in your name and the name of the bow you plan to shoot.
So I'll go ahead and do my VTech since that's.
Now, one thing that's the software does for you, especially if you have multiple bows and arrows and whatnot that are similar setups, when you add a record, that new record inherits all of the properties of the previously selected setup. So, for example, if you got 2 or 3 bows and you're setting up another bow, but it's similar to bow 1 but not close to bow 2, you would select bow 1 first, click Add Record, and it'll inherit all the properties of that first bow.
Okay, makes sense. So
now you
next?
Go ahead. Let's click Arrow Configuration.
Okay.
Go ahead and select your manufacturer.
Okay, so I actually shoot Gold Tip Expeditions and 5575s.
Put in your arrow length. This is the raw tube length, a raw cut tube length. No, you don't include the point or the knock in the measurement.
Okay, so that's probably for me right at 21 inches.
And then all of the other information on this page is already calculated for you.
Okay.
The measured weight is already included, but it's probably not right because you haven't yet told it what kind of point you're shooting, the knock details, etc. So let's move on to point details.
Okay.
And you can select the manufacturer's point or select generic and just put in your own point weight.
Okay.
You got your point weight. I'm sorry. Your point weight is in there. Go ahead and put in whatever your point weight is.
And I do shoot 100, but I do add on my Gold Tip arrow, I do add some inserts to get a little bit more weight to get my kinetic energy up.
And if if what you're setting up is non-standard, which I understand you use 2 inserts, you would select generic.
Yep.
And just put in the total weight of the inserts that you're using down below.
And this is in grains, so the total weight's going to be right at 20 grains.
Okay. So now we click on the knock details tab.
Okay.
Select the manufacturer of your knock.
Yeah, I use my Gold Tick, so this all looks like already pre-configured for me.
Okay, and do you use a knock adapter?
I don't.
Okay, so we'll just leave that alone. Let's move on to fletch details.
Okay.
Select your manufacturer.
And funny, this might be remembering exactly. Yeah, so I use the quick spins, the 2.25, so that all looks good.
3 fletch, and it calculates the weight per fletch automatically for you.
Yep.
Now we'll move on to arrow wrap.
Yep.
And
yep, this is kind of remembering, I think, an old setup I had, but I do have the boning, the Blazer carbons, and 4-inch typical. Yep, I think we're all good here.
Okay, now let's go ahead and click back on shaft details. And now that you've built you've put all the information required to calculate the arrow speed, you'll look under calculated weight. It says your arrow is 316. That for all intents and purposes, that's as accurate as you're going to need for sight setting, shaft selection, or anything else. But if you really need it to be more precise, if you've got access to a grain scale, you can go ahead and put in your known arrow weight down as measured arrow weight, and it'll retain that information for you. So now we've got your arrow belt. Let's go on to sight configuration.
Okay.
I understand you're using a Sherlock.
Yep. Yep, that's right.
Okay. Your peep sight to sight, that's the measurement between the distance between your peep and your sight at full draw.
That's going to be right at, I think, might be 18 actually.
Okay. And then your peep height, you go ahead and enter that in inches.
And I think 4 looks good to me.
And that is measured at full draw, straight down from the center line of your peep to the center line of your shaft.
Okay.
Okay, let's go ahead and select bow.
Okay.
And this is just a summary of the details. Go ahead and click on the Select Bow from List tab.
Okay.
And select your manufacturer.
So the bow I was thinking of here is a Hoyt VTech. It's got the XT1000 limbs, cam and a half, and it was a 2006. And then do I click on transfer data to current setup?
Correct.
Perfect.
So now it automatically puts in the name that includes all of the cams and limbs and so on in the name. You can either leave the bow description as is, or you can add information. Let's say you have 2 Hoyt VTECs, you might put on there black, red, whatever, 80% cams, 65% cams, etc.
Perfect.
Okay.
So now from here I can actually, all that information I entered, can I actually get a sight tape for my Sherlock sight?
You are ready. Once the program knows how fast your arrow is, you're ready to get a sight tape. So let's go to sight in.
Okay.
And what ranges do you typically sight in at? Your short range and long range.
Usually 20 and 70.
Okay, so let's go ahead and put in 70.
Okay.
And then let's leave your 20-yard mark at 10 for this. Okay. And that's the sight setting that you would read off of your Sherlock scale.
Okay.
70 yards we'll say is 48.9.
Here on Mark II?
Correct.
Okay. 48.9. Got it.
Now you go ahead and click calculate speed. Okay. And it says, well, let's kick this speed up a little bit. You're shooting faster than that. Sure. Let's make it about 35.5, 35.5.
Okay.
I click calculate speed. Click 10:35. Click calculate speed again. Range 10:35. Oh, you changed your rate. Let's try 25.5.
Okay.
That's a little more reasonable. Now, we can, now that your bow is sighted, and you can go to preview marks or go ahead and print a sight tape.
Okay, so we go to the, and of course,
mark.
Just to kind of summarize, we're just kind of plugging in numbers to show how this would work. Obviously, this would be specific to what you shot, but if we go to preview marks.
Now you can see it shows you've got a list on the right that shows you all of your sight settings from 2 to 150 yards.
Yep.
If you want to know what your sight setting is for any range, for example, 65.5 yards, go ahead and punch that into the range box. To the left, the yellow box.
Oh.
Just punch in just 65.5 and tab out. It tells you that your sight setting is 23.9